Hello everyone, my name is Elaine Enríquez and you're tuning in to Share the Vision. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to have everyone connected. Today we have a very special program because we have a very special guest. With us, Darius Daughtry. He's a poet, he's a writer, he's a director, an educator, and I love this about him because he's working to bring art to all communities. This tells us about how inspired he is, how talented he is, and how in tune he is with our communities. Darius, welcome. Thank you for being here with us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Well, you are many different things. You are professional. You're very talented, and our audience, they're going to learn a lot more about it. And we're going to show a video at the end of the program, which you will describe a lot, what it entails and where was it that you were able to perform? Amen. Now, how would you describe yourself?
Oh man, I first would describe myself as my grandmother's grandson and my mother's son. But what I do in the world, how I show up is I'm a poet, I'm a playwright, director, educator, curator, and I'm a founder and artistic director of a nonprofit organization. It's called Art Prevails Project.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, how can the arts unlock our potential?
Yeah, so that's great. So, for me, I know if it wasn't for the arts and access to the arts, I don't know where I would be. Very early in life, I had the opportunity to just be exposed to and impacted by the arts. And it helped me get through a lot of tough situations, a lot of things that, I was dealing with as a child and as a teenager. And so I was able to really find myself and connect to who I am. But also, I saw that I'm a former educator. I taught middle and high school, and I was able to work with these young people. And when I exposed them to the arts, these are young people who were struggling in different ways. Some of them, were behind in their academics. Their reading levels were very low. But exposing them to the arts, helped kind of spark an interest or connect them to things about themselves that they didn't really know that were there. And so I think that's possible for us all. And so whether it is participating in an art, like you actually singing or dancing yourself, or watching or being exposed to going to a play, listening to music, all of that is, able to connect to our humanity and, really get to who we are, beyond what's on the surface.
Wow, that's fantastic that you work with the youth, with the young people, especially those that need that extra help, that extra empowering to be able to achieve and to have that dream, whatever that dream may be. That's really special.
Absolutely. But I think, we all, no matter, we all, have that in us, right? So whether you are the student, that needs a little extra push, or you're the adult who is going to a 9-to-5 job every day and has been kind of stuck in a kind of a complete cycle of your day. So we all need that. It increases the quality of life, right? Like what would if there was no music, if there was no art, what would that feel like on a daily basis if we just went through life without that?
Oh, most definitely. Talent is very important in our lives, and how we express those talents are also a factor as to how we can achieve those goals and dreams and aspirations. So we thank God for you, Darius, because you're in that front line, being a professional. Absolutely. And very successful.
I mean, we're getting to very successful. I'm doing okay. But, we're headed towards very successful. Speak that into existence.
We'll tell our audience a little bit later about that video, but I saw it and I just started the video and I had to finish it because it was amazing.
Awesome.
All the information you brought and shared.
Yes.
Now, you are an accomplished poet, playwright, director, educator with a decade worth of experience. What does that mean for you?
Yeah, so by now I need to update my bio, so it's a little more than a decade. What it means for me is that the little boy that I was when I was growing up, and the dreams that I had, and the dreams that I didn't even know that I had, that some of those things are taking shape, and I'm able to not only live my dream, but also help others find theirs. And so, you know, for over a decade, what I've been doing, again, I was teaching, and I left teaching, but then I've worked through the Tri-County area in schools and community spaces, and, you know, in detention centers, and, you know, in hospitals and various places, bringing art and creativity into those spaces. I've been able to travel to different states and work in different states as an artist, but also as an art educator, you know, working with students at military academies, working in New York, like doing different things. And so being able to do what I love, but also do what I think is important for us to never lose sight of. Because when I was teaching, you know, they took a lot of the artistic, you know, things out of the classroom, right? It took a lot of it out. And so for me to be able to provide some of that is a blessing.
Wow, it's amazing.
Yeah.
What do you enjoy the most out of all the things that you've been able to achieve and share with the youth and everyone else? What do you enjoy the most?
That's a hard question. That's a hard. What do I enjoy the most? Oh man, I can't just say one thing. I'll say a couple of things. So one of the things is I'm a playwright and director. For me, I have a lot of fun when we're rehearsing a play, and so that process to go from the words on the page, and when the actors are really connecting to the story and putting their energy and their perspective and adding that to it, to be able to kind of put that on stage and seeing what happens and how we connect with each other and become a family and a unit during the rehearsal process. I love that. One of my favorite things. But also working with, and I'm gonna say a student, but when I think of a student, I don't think of just the youth. So students I work with are from the youth to the senior population. And so whenever I'm working with a student, like, and they, something in them that they didn't think that they could do this, like they didn't think of themselves as someone who could write a poem or, you know, and say these things in a certain way. But then we work with them, and then hearing them like read their words out loud and be impressed with what they were able to do. Like for me, I love that moment. And to see that from a 7-year-old or a 16-year-old or a 70-year-old, to hear that person share their words and be inspired by what they actually created.
Wow. What is the process for a student to get to a certain level where they can actually perform what they've learned, what they've achieved?
So that's the process. So it is the actual writing of it, right? So that to be able to write it and to choose the words carefully and to, you know, choose them with intention, but also, you know, with the creative flair that you wanted to have. And then it is, I call it, you know, knowing things by heart, because when you memorize something, it's just in your head. Yes. Or if you know it by heart, like it's there and no one can really take it, right? So it's there. And so it's to get the students to just really connect with their own words and feel them and know why they wrote them, and not just they wrote them, but why did I write this? What was I feeling during this? What feelings do I want to try to convey? Right. So just to continue that and do that in repetition and work on that. And then, you know, then we add the elements of like the theatrical elements, you know, so I'm a trained drama teacher. And so I can help, you know, okay, this is what you want to convey. This is how you can do this. But ultimately, it's really about them being authentic. It's always just about you being your truest self. And no matter what it is, in the writing, but also in the performance, be your truest self.
What about stage fright?
Yeah, that's a thing. It's a thing. It's a thing. And sometimes, you know, it freezes people. You know, I've worked with students and they, you know, before we got on the stage, they were great, but once they got out there, they completely forgot their entire poem or piece, and they just stood there staring into the void, and nothing happened, right? So it happens. It happens. Sometimes you can't avoid it, but the more you do it, you know, the more that you do it, the more and the more comfortable you are with whatever you're saying. So I think sometimes if you're not fully confident in what you're saying, then it becomes, again, it's in your head, and you start to think about it, and then it kind of you psych yourself out. But if you're comfortable and confident in what it is that you're presenting, then oftentimes, more often than not, you'll be okay. But yeah, I mean, I still get a little, you know, nervous before I step on the stage every time.
I think it's part of the adrenaline, right? To get you where you need to go. Sometimes it helps.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it does.
Now, that's the way that you're able to connect with these students, and these students be able to connect with the audience or whatever piece they may be learning to perform, to be able to grow not only through the arts, but also their person.
Yes.
Right? How important is that to every student? Because they come from different backgrounds, different situations, and that helps them to achieve, even though they might be facing situations.
100%. I think, you know, in everything that I do, I emphasize how important you are as an individual and how valid your thoughts, your experiences, your life, how valid it is. And so no matter what anybody else is saying, no matter what the circumstances may be, no matter what you think you can't do or can't be, what other people have told you that you can't do or can't be, that doesn't matter. That your personal experience, who you are, what you feel matters. What you've been through matters. And so we just try to work to make sure that you can take that and be real with yourself and speak truth, you know, to yourself, because oftentimes we tell ourselves a lot of untruths, you know, and we listen to a lot of the negativity, and we tell those, we repeat the stories that have been told to us, and, you know, things that tell us and keep us from achieving things because we believe what we've heard. And so the idea is to be able to break those particular chains to know that you are worthy and you are amazing and all of those things. And then we can show that and we can put that into this work.
Well, you are amazing.
Well, thank you.
And it's so special because you're not only reaching out your own career and your talents shared, but you want to bring others to also share their talents and also become whatever it is within the talent they want to become.
Absolutely.
That's special.
Yeah. So, you know, that's interesting. So I think of it like what good is it to be able to do these things and to achieve certain things, and you just do it alone, and you don't help others to kind of move in that direction. Yes. Whether it is, you think of, you know, the prophets and preachers and, you know, anybody proselytizing and you know, their faith, right? It's like the idea, like, okay, this is what I found, so let me share this with you so you can feel this goodness too. Yes. Right? Or like, I think of like Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad, right? So Harriet Tubman, you know, escaped slavery, but she went back multiple times to help people. So like, then, you know, there are multiple people like her. And so she's going back and doing that and risking her life. I mean, I can help people write some poems, you know, I can do that, you know. So I've found a thing that I know is powerful. And so for me, it's like, if I can help give you tools, you may not be, for me, you may not say, oh, I want to be a this, I want to be a performer, an artist. But if I can give you something that when you are feeling lonely or sad, or that you don't know what to do or angry, and you say, you know what, I can go and I can write about this and put this out, put this down, or say these words, or listen to this poem, and I can feel better. If I can do that, then I've done more than my job.
Wow. Amazing. How can we serve our community and bring Christian values in the world of the arts?
That's a good question. That's a great question. I think like ultimately right? Because this is such a diverse world, right?
Yeah.
And so, and I know for me, people that I deal with and work with and experience, everyone has all kinds of faiths and believe different things, right? So for me, it is, making sure that everything that I do is done with love, and everything
Mm-hmm.
that I do is done with grace and honor and love. And for that when I think of anything that's related to faith and spirituality, the center point for me is love and showing love and kindness in everything that I do. And I think if we continue to operate in that space and then also understanding that everyone has their own journey, and I can't make someone believe a thing or do a thing at my pace, give them space to travel their own journey, but be honest and truthful so as a storyteller, as a poet, as a playwright, for me it's always about being honest in my storytelling. And sometimes that honest storytelling may make other people feel uncomfortable, but as long as it's coming from a place of authenticity and of love, then we're good. So I think the same thing with all arts. If it's coming from a place of authenticity, but like with love at the core of it and betterment for humanity, then I think, that serves that purpose.
When you sit down to write a story, what inspires you? Daily living, situations that you encounter, learn about, hear about?
All of that and more. All of that. So it really depends. Sometimes it is something I read in the news, something I see in the news. Sometimes it's things that have been just there for years, and feel like, okay, you know what, I'm compelled to write about this. Sometimes I don't even know. Sometimes I'll just start writing something and it's definitely divine, because I don't even know why I started thinking about this, and I'll look up and it's an hour later and I've written all of this, and I'm like, where did this come from? And so, but like I am an advocate of the ideas of equity and equality and human rights and civil rights and social justice. And so all those things for me are important. And so when I'm writing stories or plays or a poem, that's oftentimes there's a tinge of that in whatever I do, because I think, as a country, as a world, we need to have some certain conversations that we don't like to have sometimes. And so part of my job, I think, is to help facilitate those conversations. And so I think about ways to be able to do that, and do it in ways that may be uncomfortable but palatable, at the same time. So yeah, the inspiration comes from everywhere. Like, I mean, literally, I'm sure I'll write something about this conversation we're having right now, or I'm sure, something my 9-year-old niece does. When I see her later, she'll probably say something, and then I'll be like, okay, that sparked an idea, and I'll just run with it.
Is there a specific story that you really enjoy telling?
So the story that I wouldn't say I enjoy, but I think it's a story that's important for me to tell. And it's one of the hardest stories for me to tell. And it's a story, and I've written a couple of poems about it, but then I wrote a short film based around this particular story. And it was, this film was directed, and it won a couple of awards. But this is a story about me being in college and driving back to school one night and getting pulled over by the police, and then the police pulling out guns on me. Like 8 police officers drew guns on me and threatened to kill me, and for nothing. And I hadn't done anything. I wasn't speeding. There was no drugs, no drinking or anything like that. And I have friends that were in the car with me. And so that particular story, I like to tell that particular story, because sometimes when we have conversations about experiences that happen in life, people who haven't had those experiences, it's hard for them to kind of connect to them and relate. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes, specifically in those situations, they talk about like, oh, well, he must have been doing something, or he probably was doing this or whatever, or, who is he really? Is he, we don't really know his past. And so when I tell those stories in spaces where people look at me and think that I'm a pretty good guy, like, oh, like, he's a pretty good guy. Right. And, to share that it can happen. So things like that can happen to anyone. Yes. And so I that's the story I liked. I not that I like to tell, because I wish it hadn't happened to me, because it was extremely traumatic. It's traumatic to the point. It's something that I'm still kind of, unraveling and unwrapping that trauma for years.
It helps you to heal.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's no longer your story. Yeah. Now everybody's story.
It's everybody's story. Yeah. So like in my book, so I wrote the poem for the first time. I shared it in my book, which is called "And the Walls Came Tumbling." And, the fact it was difficult for me to put that in the book, right? It's like to be so vulnerable but I did it because of that. So that, it's not just my story. It's other stories and other people out there who can relate to it. Mm-hmm. Or like, oh, that happened to him too. And then other people who couldn't relate, they're like, oh, wow, like I didn't see it like that. Hopefully, that things like that start to kind of help us come together and just heal as a society.
Yeah, and it helps people to be aware. Yeah. To be conscious. Yeah. It does a lot for all of us that hear the stories. Mm-hmm. And wow, that's now interesting. Yeah. And these things do happen. It can happen to anyone. Yeah. Most definitely. Yeah. We have a video.
Yes.
We're going to ask our producer to share the video on screen.
Yes.
So we could take a look at it. And then you can let us know how this all came to be.
Okay.
Yeah, the location. Yeah. And why is it that you expressed what you expressed during the time that
all right, perfect.
The video was.
Yeah. So filmed. That right there is the TEDx talk that I did, right? So there was a call. So it's happening in Hollywood, Florida, and there was a whole call for speakers of various kinds, like whatever you want to talk about, this anything that was transformative. And so this particular talk that I did, I was able to. I took my own personal story, right? And how, it's titled, how can the arts unlock, your potential, right? So it's about me, my story, how the arts saved my life. But then it's also about how me working with young people and seeing how that transformed who they are and what they are able to do. And so what's kind of special about it is that I opened it and ended it with poems. So I did there are two poems, the poem that starts it, the poem that ends it in the middle, I wove in my entire story. And really it's an appeal to whoever is listening, whether it is, funders, potential sponsors or donors to organizations, politicians, or whomever it is, to make sure that they support the arts, because how vital it is for just our humanity and for our, to help young people be the best that they can be.
Well, Darius, I want to ask you, is there a short poem that you can share with us?
How short?
Well,
how short? Because I have long poems. So
how about a minute?
A minute. So I can give a part of one. So I give a part of the one that I shared in that video. Okay. All right. Life will never be a crystal stair. More like a battlefield filled with landmines and snares. You can either navigate the field or sit sideline scared, screaming at the rest of the world that life just ain't fair, and you're right. Ain't nothing fair about this thing called life. Some are fork-fed a fortune while others futilely fight for an inch, a pinch, a sliver, a slice, a dash of daybreak in the darkness of night. But what shall your game plan be? Will you sit on the sideline resigned to defeat, lamenting over all the odds you feel you can't beat? Put your hand over your heart. And if you still feel a beat, then you are blessed. So tell stress to take several seats. Step on your haters' necks, lace up the boots on your feet, and then stride into your year, your month, your week, your day, your hour, your minute, your moment, every part of your life as if you own it. If you have a set of goals, then you better get on it, because in this fight called life, we're our fiercest opponent. We pack jabs of indecision, uppercuts of self-doubt. If you don't defend yourself from yourself, you might knock yourself out. But you just can't play defense, constant retreat. You have to go on the attack, float like a butterfly sweet, and then swing for the fences, reach for the stars, launch toward Mercury and grab a hold of Mars and take a ride on a comet, but there are no handlebars and no training wheels, so of course you'll fall off and get bloodied and muddied and sullied and scarred. But you must pick yourself up and brush yourself off, because how you deal with those falls defines who you are, and you are amazing. And now I'll stop there. So there's so much, there's more to it.
Woo!
There's more to it, but I'll stop there.
That's amazing. Wow, I love it. I love it.
you.
It's so inspirational and so truth.
Yes. Yes. So that poem is one, and I say it in the TEDx talk. I wrote that to my students that I was working with. I was working with students, and that poem was designed for them. And so like they inspired me to write that poem for them. But what's great is like now, like I share that poem oftentimes when I'm working with young people. And you know, that is, you know, the idea of like, hey, you can do this. Like this, like whatever it is, don't let anybody tell you that you can't. You got this.
Wow. I told you, you guys were going to be inspired by Darius. He's amazing. Darius, where can we reach you? What social media platforms are available that we can tap into and get more information?
Okay, so I'm going to turn right to the people. Okay.
And we have Instagram too.
Instagram, what's up? Make sure you hit me up. So everywhere. So my name is Darius Daughtry, right? Darius Daughtry. So if you just Google Darius Daughtry and you put Darius Daughtry poet or Darius Daughtry playwright, you'll probably find me. You can go to my website. It's dariusdaughtry.com. And so you can find everything there. But also my organization, nonprofit organization, is called Art Prevails Project. So we're all over YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. There's a TikTok, but, you know, that's in the works. You know, we're working on that, you know. But so everywhere you look, if you want to find out what's happening with Art Prevails Project, our upcoming performances, work we're doing in schools and community spaces, it's all there, all online. And Darius Daughtry, check it out. Check me out.
All right. Thank you, Darius, for being here with us, inspiring us, and seeing life in a different light, and how important it is for the youth to be able to tap into that inspiration so they can reach for the stars.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you
so much
for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. What a blessing. Thank you for allowing us to bring this wonderful guest to all of you. Please look into our Facebook, please, our Instagram, YouTube, and our website, www.obmradio.com, where you will find more information on Darius Daughtry. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next Share Your Vision. Bye-bye.